For the honor of Grayskull! Well, this is close enough, isn't it? Hey everyone, this is Rabbit Spotlight Animation Bliss, and welcome to another Spotlight Cartoon Corner. So today's Spotlight cartoon we talk about today is She-Ra, Princess of Power. And before I get into this, here are a few words from the channel. Alright Animaniacs, now let's get on the social media train. Want to chat with us in 100 words or less? Then check out our Twitter account. Want to chat with us within a group? Then check out our Facebook account. Want to get the lowdown on everything dealing with animation on this channel? Then check all of the above. And now, we return to our regularly scheduled program. So She-Ra, Princess of Power is a spin-off of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and it actually starts off with a young woman named Adora being kidnapped as a baby by Hordak. And it turns out that her twin brother is none other than Prince Adam himself from He-Man. So when Adam finds out that Adora was his long-lost twin sister and that she was kidnapped by Hordak, he decides to go to the world of Etheria to find Adora and bring her back home. It turns out that Adora was being raised by Hordak to be the force captain of his army, and for a while Adora thought that the Horde were the good guys and everybody else were the bad guys. But then He-Man comes along and tries to convince Adora that the Horde are actually the bad guys and that she should try to get out of the Horde and join the rebellion. And at first, Adora didn't believe He-Man about any of this, but when she goes out in public and sees for herself what the Horde is actually doing to the civilians, she decided to leave the Horde and become the leader of the Great Rebellion. And it was there that Adora also realizes that she could transform into She-Ra when He-Man gives her the Sword of Protection. And so from that point forward, Adora becomes She-Ra and she tries to help the rebellion stop Hordak and his armies. So what are my thoughts about She-Ra, Princess of Power? I honestly really enjoyed this series. This was one of my favorite series growing up, and I liked this series as much as I liked the original He-Man series, and I think that this series was a really good follow-up to He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Like, here are some things I did like about the series. So the first thing I like about this series was the way that it developed the characters. Even though I really enjoy He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, I felt like they didn't quite develop their characters that well, but when you compare it to She-Ra, Princess of Power, the characters were a bit better develop here. Like, I like how they explained to us that Adora was the twin sister of Prince Adam and that she was kidnapped as a baby and raised to be a force captain of Hordak's army. And I like that bit of backstory about Adora, as it shows that she does have some experience in fighting because she was a force captain of the Horde. But once she realizes that she's been lied to all her life, she decided to go up against the Horde and become the leader of the Great Rebellion. And I like that aspect of Adora's character, and the fact that we know a lot more about her character is that she was kidnapped as a baby and she lost her memory about what was going on and who she truly was. And then another character that they developed pretty well was Hordak himself. I like the fact that Hordak used to work with Skeletor, but then he betrayed Skeletor, and that was at that point he kidnapped baby Adora at the time, and he left Skeletor behind to get captured. And so we know a bit more about Hordak's backstory in the series, and I like that. And then another thing I liked about the show is that it has some improvements over He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Now, don't get me wrong, I love He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, but I think that She-Ra, Princess of Power did some things better than He-Man and the Masters of the Universe did. Like, for one thing, there was this animation. I felt like the animation in She-Ra, Princess of Power was a bit more fluid compared to He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Like, with He-Man, the animation was a bit more limited. Like, you have the characters running the same way, and then you have the characters showing the same facial expressions in many scenes. And with She-Ra, even though some of that limited animation is still there a bit, there's a bit more expression with the characters' faces, and there's a bit more movement to how the characters are moving throughout the screen. So I like the fact that there's a bit more animation with She-Ra, Princess of Power than there was in He-Man. And then another thing I liked about the show was that the humor was very well done. Like, sure, compared to He-Man, She-Ra has a lot of puns to her sentences, which can be a little grating at times, and sometimes you don't know much about her personality besides the fact that she keeps spewing out puns all the time. But I do like the fact that She-Ra is a lot more energetic as a character, and also her friends are very energetic characters like Swiftwind and Madame Raz and Bo, to name a few characters. So I really like how the characters are developed in the show, and how they have a lot more personality in the series that made me really love these characters. And then another thing I liked about this series was that it was one of the earliest examples of having a strong female protagonist in the superhero series. Like, this series came out in the 1980s, and it was like one of the first shows to show a strong female protagonist in the main role in the superhero series, and I love the fact that the show was able to portray that in a very positive and fun way. So that's what I really enjoyed about the show. Now, here are some issues that I do have about the show. So the first issue that I have about the show is that some of the characters weren't that well developed. Now, I mentioned before that some of the characters were very well developed, like Adora and Hordak himself, but then there were some other characters like Bo and Seahawk where I think that they could have developed the characters a little more, or have them show up in more episodes and see what they could do in their own little episodes. And while they do have their own little episodes from time to time, I feel like we could have got a little bit more episodes with those characters and just see how they react in She-Ra's world. And then another issue that I have with this series is that some of the animation is a bit limited. Like, this show was made in the 1980s where there was a lot of limited animation with some of the shows, but the good thing about the animation with this show is that it's not as bad as it was in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Like, I complained about in my He-Man review how the animation was a bit limited, with the characters having the same facial expressions throughout each scene and having the same walk cycles in each scene. And even though She-Ra is a bit more fluid with their animation here and there are still some moments where the characters have the same facial expressions and the same walk cycles, so those moments do annoy me a bit. But overall, I really enjoy She-Ra Princess of Power. I think it's a fantastic spin-off to He-Man the Masters of the Universe, and if you like He-Man the Masters of the Universe, or you want to watch another superhero series that has a strong female protagonist, I definitely recommend you check out the original She-Ra Princess of Power series. So that's my review on the original She-Ra Princess of Power series, and tell me in the comments down below, have you seen the original She-Ra Princess of Power series? And if you have, did you like the series? Did you hate the series? And what's your favorite animated spin-off series? Please feel free to tell me in the comments down below. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Rowdy Explorer Animation Bliss, and I'll see you guys later.